We are in the newest episode of Semaphore Uncut, and today we have Ken Kocienda. Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Great. Can you please go ahead and give some words of introduction?
Sure. My name is Ken Kocienda, and I'm the co-founder and CTO of Infactory. And we're a new company, and we love AI at Infactory. But we hate BS. And so we all know, and we're all been, I think, very excited about the kinds of interactions that we have with AI and with chatbots. But we've been disappointed in a way that sometimes it hallucinates or it gives the wrong answers to questions when we ask them. And we can't really rely on it as much as we might like. But we love the natural language interaction that we get. So at Infactory, we're trying to deliver facts. We're trying to give people, everybody, you, me, everybody out in the world, access to the facts that they're interested in a reliable way using the natural language interface that AI can offer. And we can talk about this in more detail, but we're very, very excited about the potential of AI and the technology that we're building.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for sharing the intro. The first thing that I try to summarize this. So, are you promising AI without hallucinations?
So what we're hoping to provide is an experience that feels like you have this conversational interaction with computers, with technology. And so the AI is a big part of that, understanding natural language. But what happens in many of these AI systems is that the AI also is directly delivering you the answer that you get. There are all kinds of techniques that use different sorts of additions to that process. RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where we'll go into a web search and we'll give it back to the LLM and give you an answer. But that isn't really reliable enough. So what we're trying to do at Infactory is eventually boil down the interaction that you're asking for from the AI system to a query, to something that's deterministic. And we're going to tell you what that query is that we're running. And you're going to be able to see that. And you're going to just have this sort of more open, more white box experience about what the system is doing and how the AI is interacting, but ultimately get you through to facts reliably. You ask the same question, you'll get the same answer reliably.
Yeah. A big promise, and I believe you guys are going to deliver on that. AI is, like, let's say, relatively new to a lot of us in terms of like getting into the domain. Can you give us your experience? You have amazing career, at Apple, developing multiple products. Again, interaction, human interface, and all of that. What was experience for like a seasoned
Well,
developer?
you might be able to tell from the little bit of the gray beard that I have on
Yeah,
my chin, and maybe not so much hair left on the top of my head.
I'm
The
keeping mine short because mine is also gray, although I'm younger.
So I've been doing tech for over 25 years now, and I started in the 21st century working at Apple. Really, from 2001, I joined Apple, and my job was to make a web browser for Apple. So I joined a small team with one other person, and we went off and built a small team to deliver what became Safari and WebKit. And so that was a wonderful experience of tapping into web technology when it was at a much earlier stage than it is now. I mean, it's decades have passed, but then it's felt like the most exciting, the most the area of technology that was the richest in potential. And so that was a very, very good experience of building what is now a kind of a foundational technology. Safari, both on the Mac and of course on iOS devices, is a software that a lot of people use every day. And then of course the work from WebKit has gone off, and other companies have built their derivatives of that. So Chrome is a big example. So a lot of people use that technology now. It's something I'm very proud of. So then after that, after having this web experience, in 2005, I was asked to join the iPhone project when it was 6 or 7 people. So what became iOS was and UIKit and the development environment that developers who are maybe listening use to develop to create apps on iOS. That was a project that I got involved in very, very early, and did a lot of work on text entry, and the keyboard autocorrection was my project, but also did a lot of work on scroll views, and giving that kind of experience that we've all become familiar with on touchscreen devices. And so, the linkage between that work, working on the web, working on mobile, and many, many, products after that on mobile. I worked on the first iPad and the first Apple Watch, and iOS for many, many, many versions. And the experience of doing that, when AI came along, it's like AI is as interesting and is as exciting as those other two technology pieces. And so, founded a company to try to make some new work and hopefully make a wonderful new contribution to this exciting new area.
Yeah, great. One thing that you know is a pattern obviously here is that you really had the experience to enter those arenas very, very early on, as web when it was taking off, as you said, and then touch interfaces, an iPhone, and so on. From a purely like experience of like tech guy and technologists, how do you approach entering a completely new domain? Because
Yeah,
I would say each of there are connecting points definitely, in terms of product development and so on, but it is a
sure.
completely new domain.
So, it's a great question because I've been involved in these different technology areas, but at a certain point, I enter and I make a contribution, not at the fundamental technology area. I didn't, invent or was not involved with TCP/IP or HTTP, or HTML, but I came in at the point where those technologies uh, were at a point where we could make a contribution to bring that technology to a wider audience. And it was the same in mobile. I worked with some of the people. I knew some of the people who invented the touchscreen technology that we used on the iPhone. But it was at the point of taking that technology and now making a system around it that you could put in a product and give out to everybody. And so, naturally, over the last few years, there has been it's just stunning, amazingly impressive advances in generative AI and LLMs uh, that has been done by other people. I had nothing to do with inventing the core and the fundamentals of that technology. But what I see is that there's an opportunity to take that technology and add in this product level, this level of linkage between the low level potential of the technology and what people want to do with it, and to create something new that I hope has just a fraction of that, a tiny percentage of the success of these other projects. And if we can do that in Infactory, we'll be doing very well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah. In terms of product development, technologies that are a bit older and widespread and well understood. I mean, it's easier. It's easy for, I think, all our listeners as developers to think how we iteratively improve the product and test it and test various prototypes and so on. Mobile apps, web, and so on. When it comes to the AI, this process, like, at least to me, looks like something that is probably a little bit different.
Yeah.
You create a prototype. It is a text interface, of course, but
Yes.
yeah, if you can speak about that, and how do you approach that iterative development with this kind of
Yeah.
a new technology?
It is. You're absolutely right. It is different. And part of my effort is to bring some of the familiarity of developing in these other platforms, in these other areas, whether it be the web or mobile, or Unix, programming, using sort of more traditional tools and techniques, and to bring some of that familiarity to working with AI. And again, going back to this, I mean, I think if any of the folks listening have gone to any of the foundational models, and gotten a developer an API key and start interacting with it, it is a very, very different way of making a plan for what you want to deliver, and then, well, how do you bring that to a level of reliability and polish that then you can put out into a product? And it's different because there's so much of it seems like it's kind of a black box. You write a prompt, you build a little message history up, and you send out a request, and what you get back is it's not like a more traditional C API, or a JavaScript API, or an HTTP, sort of endpoint interaction. And so what we're trying to do at Infactory is break down the problem of building an AI application into some different pieces. We call these pieces connect, build, deploy, and explore. And just very, very briefly, Connect is all about giving you access to the data that you're interested in. We don't scrape the web. We don't operate against just resources out on the internet. You need to bring a data set that you're interested in. Okay, so and you connect that data source to our software, and then you build some of these queries. Now, I have this idea that over a particular data set, there are only so many interesting questions. There's not a billion interesting questions that you can ask about a data set. And there's not even a million. I think there's maybe a couple of thousand questions that you can ask about a finance data set, or a weather data set, or a data set that is logging from your application, log files, things like that. So you build queries that are going to be really the end result of your natural language interaction, and then you can take those queries and you can deploy them as HTTP endpoints. And then in the end, the explore is that you have a chat interface. And in the end, what you're doing when you're talking to the application in this explore experience, you are eventually going to get routed to one of these deployed APIs. And we have a very, very interesting, I think, methodology for customizing and parameterizing these deployed APIs. So they are very, very broad in what they can accept in terms of their input, or they could be very, very tightly constrained in terms of the input that you give them to get you through to the answer that is represented in your connected data set. And so we try to create this development cycle that gives more touch points than just a prompt and a request to an LLM, right? To give the developer, to kind of crack open this black box and give more development touch points so that we can build an application that in the end really does feel like you're talking to an AI system. But ultimately, you interacting with these deployed endpoints to give you access to the data in interesting ways that you've created.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like something that you have. The first thing that popped in my head is, I would say, generally more corporate and enterprise environment.
Mm,
I mean, it gives like amazing level of like control, and the data set, as you were talking about it, I imagined, you know, insurance company, for instance, they have a
sure,
crazy amount of data, and
sure.
as you are probably a couple of hundred of questions that really make sense, and
Yes,
variations of those.
yes.
So maybe a question: as you're building this, are you do you have in mind this as like a B2C, B2B like kind of environment, or
Yeah,
it
right.
seems a
Right
bit
now, I mean, you
agnostic,
said
but
you said the magic word a minute ago, which is enterprise. I mean, that is our first target. We've gone out in the world, and I have a couple of wonderful co-founders, and one of them, her name is Brooke Hartley Moy, and she has a lot of experience at companies like Google and Slack and Salesforce, going out and talking to companies and finding out what their technology needs are. And we are taking that feedback and trying to develop software that will meet those companies where they are. And so that's an initial target. But I will say that I personally use Infactory software um, uh, to explore baseball statistics. Since I'm a kid, I've just been very interested in baseball. I'll actually say that here I am in this phone room at our little shared working space, and to prop up my computer to be a little bit taller off the desk, I have my old copy of the baseball encyclopedia. So so I go to baseballreference.com, and they have this game called Immaculate Grid. And to not belabor this, but I use Infactory software to fill out this little game every day, which is questions about baseball trivia. And so I think eventually, in the beginning, we are targeting enterprise and companies that have large amounts of structured data and want to bring their interaction with that data into the AI age, right? But they can't just give that data, or can't or won't, maybe for business reasons or compliance reasons, give that data over to a foundational model to be searched. They need to have this data under secure control inside the enterprise for, again, various reasons. So we want to bring companies like that the advantages and the new kinds of interactions that the rest of us have come to expect and use and enjoy when searching the internet or interacting with a chatbot. Does that make sense?
absolutely. I have a little story to share from this week, and then you can maybe connect to that.
Sure.
So I think this or last week we used Google Workspace, so Google Docs, Sheets, and all the good stuff that comes with that. I think maybe last week we got an email that our plan is going to become maybe $5 or something like that more expensive, and we are going to get Gemini as a part of it. And we already had some in our generally security compliance policies and all of that, various, let's call them chapters about AI and how to interact with that and so on. And now, okay, potentially we are going to use Gemini since we already have to pay for it, and it is behaving a little bit different than what we use generally. And now we, for generally customer interactions and so on, people working with support and so on, when you need to have like some provisions to say that you cannot ask something of AI, then copy paste that without thinking and send that to a customer. About anything. It seems that your product would solve that to some extent. That
Mm-hmm.
because anything can leak into that.
Yeah.
Anything can leak, and if you are not careful, you could send something to some other person that can almost feel that you are leaking some other company's data, or
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and hallucinations are dangerous in some cases, very.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, Can you maybe speak a little bit about that? It seems that
Yeah,
it's one of the things that you would solve.
yeah, it is. So the one thing that we haven't really touched on yet is what is the primary output from the Infactory software? And we take natural language as input and your data. So you bring a data set again, whether it's enterprise data of you mentioned insurance companies, that would be one, or any kind of structured data. Like I said, log files from running systems, or the finance data, these kinds of things. You mentioned earlier, we have media is an industry that has expressed a lot of interest. So information about movies and TV shows and the Grammys, things like this. Okay, so this is structured data where there are facts, and so you bring those facts and your questions. And eventually, what we deliver to you is structured data output, which is the result of running a query against that data. We will tell you what query we ran. We will tell you how we parameterized that query, and we're going to give you the structured data output from that query. Now, you as a developer, you can do whatever you wish with that data. You could populate that data into a dashboard. Maybe you're running a query every 5 minutes, and the update is coming through, and maybe you interact and you say, change that to every 1 minute, and it'll just go and rerun the query every 1 minute instead, right? Or you could be taking that data and putting it as log information into some other system, which is going to be aggregating and processing, and maybe it's part of your compliance mechanism. That you make sure that certain data is made available and is collated and produced on a periodic basis, because again, you have some compliance requirements in your company. You could, of course, do what I think a lot of people are going to do, is to take our output and use it as a chain in an agent system, in an AI system. They may and go and do generative output. Give it to an LLM to summarize the data. Now, the advantage of doing this with Infactory software is that if there's ever any question about what your application has done, you can always go back and have this chain of events that we have given you about, this is your data. This is what we accessed. Here is the question that you asked. Here is the query that we ran. Here's how we parameterized it. And here is the structured data output. And then you can make your application do whatever it is that you wish. And so a big part of this is giving developers more flexibility, more ability to introspect this whole chain of events that begins with natural language and ends with some application output, and just gives the developers more ability to control and understand, and have more uh, ability to customize and understand, crack open the process, and make an application that if something goes wrong, if there's a bug somewhere along the line, there is something that you can go and fix. You can go fix a query, or you can go and see how did that parameter get into that query incorrectly, and make more reliable software.
Yeah, absolutely. It does solve that big problem that I think all of us feel, that as we are maybe throwing some company documents and transcript, whatever kind of data into the AI, it is that black box that something happens, it comes back, no logs, no traceability. You cannot fix. You almost cannot fix it. You work
Yeah,
with the
you
black
can't
box.
you can't fix it. I have spent years of my life now. I mean, I haven't mentioned, and I should, that I left Apple in 2017, and I wrote a book. I worked at a couple of companies, and then an old colleague got back into from Apple, got back in touch, and he and his wife had a company called Humane. And so I joined Humane to make AI hardware starting in late 2020, and worked at Humane for a number of years on making a product called AI Pin. And this experience of being at Humane and having this development environment where we were asking the AI questions and trying to get reliable answers out was a real challenge. It's kind of the discovery of what the new sort of AI programming model is, and getting a sense of how it is different from previous programming models. Um, Showed me and my co-founder Brooke that there's a company-sized problem to be solved here in bringing developers a different kind of experience that has some different features that aren't available. Again, if you just go to one of the foundational model providers and get an API key, and so we want to help everybody out in the world and developers too to have a different, more controllable, um, uh, more transparent development experience with AI.
And in terms of, let's say, shipping the product and onboarding the people to the product, so it's kind of API slash SDK and approach. I mean, there is something, but it's more than that. It's also like, yeah, it is a different pattern to developing applications. So I'm just curious, as you are like giving your product, and testing with people, how you're onboarding them, and what was the process?
Yeah, it is. It is. It kind of goes back to this progression through the different elements of our software platform that I mentioned before. Connect is, what data do you want to bring to the system? Build, what kinds of questions do you want to ask over that data? And so those are kinds of different people. The connect part might be a product manager who has a piece of data, whereas build might be a data scientist who understands that data deeply, and how to get the desired output from that data. If it's it's a database, it's a schema, essentially. Well, how do you do the interconnections? How do you do the joins? How do you write the queries? And so we have connect and build, two different kinds of people. Deploy is yet a third set of expertise, because now you're talking about somebody in infra, maybe an SRE who's saying, like, okay, you're giving me these 10 new APIs. I have to make sure that they're available. I have to make sure that there are machines and resources that have access to the data properly, and maybe provide some access control. Maybe you have in your company you have access to all the data, whereas an intern won't. Intern might only have access to two of those APIs, where you have access to all 10. And so there obviously needs to be a skill set involved there. And then ultimately, explore is all about asking questions and presenting data. So now you have application developers. You might have designers, coming in. And so, each of these steps is meant to address the kinds of application development experiences that companies have, that people do, and to bring something of the newness and the freshness and the excitement of AI to supplement the kinds of expertise in the work that people in each of these areas have and do. And give them the tools and the support to make a new style of application that again brings the interest and the fluency of natural language interaction, but delivers facts, delivers reliable data dependably, and has the kind of the logging and development support of a more traditional application. That's really the goal. So it's been a lot of work to kind of think about and organize these different modules to our platform, and talking to people. But now that we are have these pieces together, and we are talking to folks out in industry, they're interested. And so, we're still a young company, but we are very, very enthusiastic about getting this software into the hands of people, and to see what they can do with it.
Great, exciting. Can you speak about how do you see your current stage, and maybe what are the targets for this year, or
Yeah,
near
we
future?
yeah, it's so we are we had a seed stage funding in early Q4 of last year, and we founded the company in the late spring of 2024. So we're still pretty young. And we're pretty ambitious, as I've described. It's not just one thing that we're trying to make, but we're really trying to build a platform. And so we're a small company. We're hiring, and looking for some back end developers and some front end developers and some ML engineers to come and join us. We are beginning over the last, starting actually at CES this year, where we met some enterprise customers in a couple of different industries: healthcare, media, ads industry. And beginning, pilot programs and proof of concept work, and very, very soon we hope to be turning some of that work into real customer engagements, and getting helping these companies get on track, that in a few months hope that companies will be deploying new features and new applications internally and externally that are based on our software. And so 2025 is going to be very, very busy to begin getting those customers and bringing them the benefits of the software that we have to offer.
Amazing. For the people that want to, follow your work, and what company is doing, can you give us, some pointers? What are the best places to?
Yeah, so you can go to infactory.ai, and you can sign up to get into our waiting list. You can follow us on Twitter at infactory underscore AI. You can follow me on Twitter. It's my last name, which, if the video is what I see in my window, it's just my last name. You can follow me, and you can, any one of those ways you can get through if you have questions or comments, or if you're interested. We can get you routed to the right place.
Great. So yeah, I would sum it up as like, thanks for making AI more approachable for us regular regular developers.
Well, I mean, it's part of the thing is I want to do it for myself. I want to build apps. And so it's like, what kind of software do I want? And hopefully, if I can meet my own needs for building the kinds of apps that I want, that this will also be something that other developers will find interesting and useful. And that's the hope.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ken. I hope we'll speak again soon in the future with maybe some updates.
Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.